Greetings and welcome to Yarnspirations. I'm Mary Beth Temple for Hooked for Life, and in this video we're going to take a look at the interlocking stitch crochet blanket. Now if you have not tried interlocking stitches before, boy are you in for a treat, because this is a lot of fun. Now we do have this rated as a higher level pattern, but it's double crochets and slip stitches and chains. It's not a lot of fancy stitches. The important part is where you put the hook and in what order. So one of the other things about interlocking crochet that's interesting is you work one row in one color, right to left, don't turn, and then the other row in the other color, right to left, and then turn the work. But did you notice something else? It's completely reversible, which makes this a luscious, luscious blanket. Nice and thick, nice and warm. Before I go too far along, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for fresh content weekly on knitting, crocheting, and other yarny stuff. To make this fabulous blanket, you're going to need, shouldn't have put my paper down, you're going to need Caron Simply Soft in two colors. We used persimmon and off-white. We used 3 balls of the persimmon and 2 balls of the off-white. You, of course, can use whatever 2 colors you choose. You're going to need a crochet hook, size I, 9, 5.5 millimeter, or size needed to obtain gauge. And while it is not a deal breaker, I would also recommend you grab a couple of locking stitch markers. It will help you mark the right side and wrong side of your work and will help keep those pesky loops out of the way while you're learning to do these stitches. So let's get started with the very beginning. As is often the case here, we have the instructions written out in text and also on the stitch diagram. Again, with this pattern, the stitches themselves are not particularly difficult. It's really a matter of getting them where you want them to get and remembering that you do not turn the work after every row, which is unusual for most of us. But let's take a look at the first row, and we're working with A, which in this case is our persimmon, and it says double crochet in 11th chain from hook. So let's count that out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we're going to double crochet an 11th chain from hook. And it reminds you that counts as a double crochet and chain 3 over 4 chain. So that's your double crochet over here and your chains at the top at the bottom. Double crochet in next chain, so that's the very next chain. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, double crochet in each of next 2 chain, and we're going to do that till the end. And then at the end there's only 1 double crochet at the end, which would mirror what it looks like at the beginning. One, two, three. Now my sample is smaller than your blanket will be. Okay, so we can see what that looks like. So here we are at the end of the first row, and it says to pull long loop. And the reason it says that is because we don't want it to undo. We're going to work 1 row in one color, 1 row in the next color, and then flip the work. Back in one color, back in the next color, and then flip the work. Another thing that you can do if you're a little worried is use a locking stitch marker. You can put a locking stitch marker right in there to make sure that it does not pull out. All right, so I have my 1 double crochet at the end. I have my change representing the 1 double crochet at the beginning, and everything else is pairs, right? So we're going to go ahead and move on to the second row. And once again, I did not turn because it says in big bold letters, do not turn. So for the second row, which is still a right side row, because remember, we're only turning every other row. So I'm still on the right side. It says working in front of a chain. Let's try that again. Working in front of A, join B with slip stitch to second chain. Chain 6, working behind A, double crochet in same space as slip stitch. Now, I was a little iffy about where that second chain might be, but this is someplace where the diagram really helps you out. So I'm going to join it 2 chains before the first double crochet of a pair. So here's my first double crochet of the pair, and I'm going to join it 2 before, and I'm in front of the work. Oh my goodness, I'm all tangled. All right, here we go. So I've joined with a slip stitch. Now I'm going to chain 6, which counts as double crochet, and a chain 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, working behind A, double crochet in the same space. So I was in front, and now I'm working behind, but I'm going in the same stitch. So you see how I'm sort of coming through the opening? So I'm behind that chain, but I'm coming through that opening, and I'm going in the same chain as my slip stitch was in. Okay, so you can see this is in front, this is behind. Okay, moving on. Skip next 2 double crochet, that's these 2. Working behind A, double crochet in second chain of next chain 3 space. So here is my 1, 2, 3 chains, that's my chain 3 space. And it's telling me work behind A, and I'm going to put the double crochet in the middle. So once again, I'm behind that crossbar on the top. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, working in front of A, double crochet in the same space as the last double crochet. So again, same chain, but now I'm in front of that crossbar. So now working in front of A, double crochet in second chain of next chain 3 space. So now I'm in the front. So once again, I'm skipping these 2. I'm looking for this center guy. Working in front. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Going in the same place, this time in the back. So again, I like reading text generally, but I think looking at the diagram can really help. So if you look at this, if you look at the chart, if you're seeing the black crossbar, that means that blue stitch, that double crochet, is behind. If you're not seeing the blue crossbar, for example here, then it's in front. So if you're looking at this real closely, you see it's in front, back, back, front, front, back, back, front, front, back. So that is how the pattern's going to go. And we're going to do that all the way across. So here's my last repeat. I'm working front first and then back. So front, in front of the crossbar, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then back behind that crossbar. Now, I am aware that this seems a tiny bit fiddly right now, but it is one of those things that gets easier. Once you have a few rows of it, you can really see what you're doing. Okay, at this point, I'm going to extend my loop. Again, I might have put another stitch marker in there, and this is what we're looking like after the second row. And now we're going to turn the work, because we've completed one A row and one B row. So now we're on the third row. This is the wrong side of the work. Reinsert hook into the A loop. I'm going to move my stitch marker to the B loop so I don't lose it. Chain 6, counting as a double crochet in a chain 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Working in front of B. Here's B. Double crochet in each of next 2 double crochet 2 rows below. So I'm putting A double crochets in the A double crochets, and that's good for you to remember. If you suddenly discover that you're putting A double crochets in a B stitch, you're in the wrong place. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, working behind B, double crochet, and so they're over here. 1, whoops, 2, chain 3, and we're going to do this all the way across. 1, 2, 3, and now in front. 1, 2. And again, on the one hand, this seems like a lot of information to put on your brain, but it does become intuitive pretty quickly. So for example, I know I'm going behind here because there's really no other option. If I tried to go in front on that one, it would be difficult. And remember, the stitch is not difficult. You shouldn't be fighting with it. It's just you have to remember which side is which and what goes where. So I'll come back at the end of this row. Okay, coming up at the end of the third row. So we repeated from the asterisk across to the last turning chain, which is here. It says skip next 3 chain. That's these guys. 1, 2, 3. Working in front of B, which is really our only option. Double crochet in next chain of the first row. Do not turn, pull the long loop, remove the hook, and now we're going back and pick up our loop over here. And isn't that a good thing that I had my stitch marker in there? Because that almost came out. And I would have really hated that. So I'm getting ready to work with my B color. And I want to put my stitch marker in my A color. Okay, moving on to the 4th row. Reinsert hook into B loop, which we did. Chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Working in front of A. Remember, A is the persimmon color. Double crochet in second chain of first chain 3 space 2 rows below, which is a B row. So here's our 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. We're working in the middle one. And in this case, we're working in front. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, working behind a double crochet space in same space as last double crochet. So we put the double crochet here in that chain, and now we're working behind. So we're going in that exact same space. So now we went in front and then behind, and now it's behind and then in front. So once again, we're putting the color in the same color. If you find yourself trying to put A in B or B in A, you have an issue somewhere. So we went in front and behind. Now we're going behind, chain 3, 2, 3, in front, in the same stitch. Next one will be in front, grabbing that middle chain, one, 2, 3, from the back, from behind, in the same chain. Then the next one will be behind. See if I can find my 3rd chain there. There we go. Okay, so this is what it's starting to look like. And we're going to do this all the way to the end of the row. Okay, I'm at the end of the 4th row. Once again, I'm going to pull a nice big loop up. And now I'm going to turn the work. So this is what it looks on the right side. So now I'm going to go back to my A color. I'm going to move my stitch marker to the B color. I just like to pull the color I'm not using, I just pull it off to the side just so it's out of the way. You don't have to really worry about it. It's not got a lot of places it has to go. So now, while I have my piece in front of me and I'm admiring my beautiful work, and I know that this is the right side because I'm getting ready to start the 5th row, now would be a great time to take a different colored stitch marker and just kind of hang it anywhere you want on the right side of the work, because again, the phone's going to ring and you're going to put it down, or we don't all have time in our lives to sit and make an entire blanket in one sitting. And this way, when you pick it up and you go, holy Pete, I can't remember if it's the right side or the wrong side, you will know that you have a colored stitch marker on the right side of the work, which will make your life easier later. So let's take a look at that 5th row. Now, the 5th row is different because previously, let's see, let me get my A color on my hook. And chain 6. People always ask what you do with the end of the other color. I just keep it off to the side so I don't get tangled up in it. It's not important. 3, 4, 5, 6. So what's different here is that before when we were working our A color into our A color double crochets, we were working them the way they appeared, so that this would have been a front of the work, etc. But now we're changing up the pattern a little bit. So these are going to be done in the back of the work. We're going to work behind B. Now it's important that when you push these through, so you could work on them, that you push them through in the right place. So you want to look at your V, there's a V, there's a V, and you want to make sure that your stitches come through between the V's, not between the legs of one V. So I'm making sure that they have been pushed through to the back because I'm working behind, but I want to make sure that it's in the right place. There we go. My goodness. It's an early morning, you guys. That's all I can say. So we're going to stitch in each of those 2 double crochets behind the work. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And then this one will be in front of the work. And again, I want to make sure that when these stitches pop through, that they pop through between the V's. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to do that all the way to the end. And then we'll take a look and see what that looks like. Here we are at the end of the 5th row, and this is one of those rows where we do not turn. So I'm going to pull that loop up. Going to go back to this side to grab my B loop. Going to take my stitch marker out and put the yarn on my hook. And then I'm going to go ahead and put that stitch marker on this side to keep myself from undoing my work. So once again, we are on a B row, and this is the 6th row. Reinsert hook into B loop, which we just did. Count, chain 3, counts as a DC. 1, 2, 3. Working behind A, double crochet in 2nd chain of 1st chain 3 space. So there's my 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and I'm working behind A, so I'm kind of pushing it through to the back a little bit. And then I'm going to double crochet in the middle of those 3 consecutive chains. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and now working in front of A, putting a double crochet in the same space. Moving on. So I just finished in front, so the next one's going to be a front. There's my 3 chains, 1, 2, 3. Put a double crochet there. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And then I want to go behind that A color and put a double in the same space. And I'm going to do that all the way across. So are you guys sensing a pattern? The The tricky part is knowing which row you're on. But at the end of the day, you're making V-stitches in the B color, or you're making double crochets, just double crochet columns in the A color. The only thing that makes interlocking crochet tricky is knowing which side of the work you need to be on. So you're going to do the 6th row the way we've been doing it. The 7th row is the same as the 5th. We have written out the 8th row, and rows 9 and 10 are the same as rows 3 and 4, except they were a wrong side row the first time you got to it, and they're a right side row now. And once again, once you get the hang of which stitches are going to go where in your brain, if you're a text reader, I highly recommend looking at the chart, because I just think it is 100 times easier. Now, remember that this is not the full width of the pattern, but you just do the same thing all the way across. The only thing that's different are the beginnings or the ends. And we very helpfully have the repeat marked out for you here, which is the 3rd row through the 10th row. And we also have it so that the chart is in 2 different colors because the yarn is in 2 different colors. So really, this is a terrific project to learn because you don't have any shaping. Interlocking is great for blankets and scarves and squares and rectangles, so that you don't have to think about shaping and think about the stitch pattern at the same time. And again, the stitching itself is very simple. Once you get through a couple of repeats, you're really going to be able to intuit where the stitch goes at any given moment, and you will be able to read your work and know if you have gone astray. So thank you so much for joining me here for the Interlocking Stitch Crochet Blanket. I'm Mary Beth Temple for Hooked for Life. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for fresh content weekly on knitting, crocheting, and other yarny stuff. Bye-bye.